I am Ethan Cross, 31 years old, the youngest CEO ever to lead Helix Corporation. People call me ruthless because emotions have no place in billion-dollar negotiations. My days are measured in stock prices, acquisitions, and enemies waiting for me to make one mistake. The biggest threat to Helix isn't another company. It's Adrian Vale, CEO of our rival corporation. Every newspaper calls him my greatest competitor. Every board meeting begins with his name. Every sleepless night ends with thoughts of how to defeat him. Then everything changes. Someone leaks confidential research from both our companies. Millions disappear overnight. The media blames us. Our investors panic. For the first time, Adrian asks for a private meeting instead of declaring war. I expect another business trap. Instead, I find him standing alone on the rooftop of a luxury hotel overlooking the city, wearing a charcoal suit with the wind gently moving his black hair. His eyes don't look like those of an enemy. They look tired. He quietly says, "Someone wants us fighting while they steal everything." Against every instinct, I agree to work with him. Days turn into weeks as we secretly investigate together. Late nights become shared dinners. Business conversations slowly become personal stories. I learn he lost his parents to a mysterious corporate accident. He learns I lost my older brother under nearly identical circumstances. The similarities are impossible to ignore. One rainy evening, after escaping photographers through an underground parking garage, he laughs for the first time. It's surprisingly warm. Without thinking, I smile back. When we reach my car, silence fills the space between us. He gently reaches for my hand. Our fingers hesitate, then intertwine. Neither of us pulls away. For the first time in years, I don't feel alone. Part 2. The secret hidden behind his smile. Our investigation forces us to travel together across different countries, pretending to negotiate billion-dollar mergers while secretly chasing hidden evidence. The closer we work, the harder it becomes to remember that Adrian was once my greatest rival. He notices when I skip meals. I notice when nightmares keep him awake. One evening in Kyoto, after hours spent reviewing encrypted files, we escape the city and wander through quiet lantern-lit streets. Without cameras, without shareholders, without expectations, we're simply two men trying to survive. Under blooming cherry blossoms, Adrian suddenly stops walking. I don't remember the last time I felt peaceful. His voice trembles. Before I realize what I'm doing, I gently brush a strand of hair away from his face. Our eyes meet. The world around us disappears. He slowly leans closer. So this is what trust feels like. Our lips meet in a soft, lingering kiss beneath drifting cherry blossoms. No urgency. No fear. Just warmth. When we finally pull apart, he rests his forehead against mine. I think I've been falling for you since the rooftop. My heart, once ruled entirely by business, belongs to him, but someone is watching us. And somewhere nearby, a hidden camera records everything. Part 3. Betrayal wears a friendly face. Our relationship remains secret while we continue searching for the truth. Then disaster strikes. The media releases photos of our kiss. Shareholders accuse us of manipulating the market. Employees lose faith. Our boards demand immediate resignations. Someone planned this perfectly. As the scandal spreads, Adrian disappears without warning. His phone goes silent. His apartment is empty. Every clue points toward betrayal. I refuse to believe it. After days of searching, I discover a hidden research facility where Adrian is being held against his will by the very people responsible for our family's tragedies. He sacrificed his freedom to keep me safe. When I finally reach him, bruised but smiling, he whispers, "I knew you'd come." I pull him into my arms, holding him tighter than ever before. The relief overwhelms us both. Our kiss is filled with tears, gratitude, and the promise that neither of us will ever face the darkness alone again. For the first time, love becomes stronger than fear. Part 4. Together against the empire. With undeniable evidence finally in our hands, Adrian and I prepare to expose the criminal organization controlling the corporate world from the shadows. Every board member who betrayed us, every executive who profited from tragedy, every lie will finally end. The final shareholders' summit becomes our battlefield. Instead of presenting quarterly profits, we reveal decades of hidden corruption to the entire world. Silence fills the massive conference hall. Then applause erupts. Authorities arrest the conspirators before they can escape. The empire built on greed collapses in a single day. Outside the building, reporters surround us. Instead of answering questions, Adrian quietly takes my hand in front of every camera. This time, neither of us hides. He smiles. I smile back. Before thousands of flashing cameras, we share a gentle kiss. Not as rivals, but as partners choosing honesty over fear. For the first time, the headlines aren't about power. They're about courage. Part 5, The Future We Chose. 1 year later, Helix Corporation and Vale Industries have become partners, focusing on ethical innovation instead of endless competition. People still ask who won. They're asking the wrong question. There was never a winner. There was only a choice: to keep fighting or to love. Adrian and I build a foundation supporting young entrepreneurs whose dreams might otherwise be crushed by corruption. Every morning begins with coffee together instead of separate board meetings. Every evening ends with laughter instead of loneliness. Sometimes we return to that rooftop where everything began. The city still glows beneath us. The wind still carries the same quiet peace. Adrian slips his hand into mine. I'd choose you in every lifetime. I smile, leaning close until our foreheads touch. So would I. As the sun rises over the skyline, we share one last tender kiss, knowing that the greatest success of my life was never becoming the youngest CEO. It was finding the one person who taught me that love is stronger than ambition, and that a shared future is worth more than any empire I could build alone. I never imagined my greatest rival would become the first person I looked for every morning. 3 weeks had passed since Adrian and I formed our secret alliance. Officially, Helix Corporation and Vale Industries were still locked in a fierce battle that dominated business headlines. Unofficially, we spent nearly every day together. To the outside world, we argued during board meetings and competed for contracts. Behind closed doors, we chased the same invisible enemy. Someone had orchestrated years of corruption, stolen billions from both companies, and left behind only carefully erased records. Every clue disappeared moments before we reached it. Whoever they were, they always stayed one step ahead. Our latest lead brought us to Kyoto. The annual Global Innovation Summit attracted CEOs, investors, and government officials from around the world. It was the perfect place to exchange confidential information without raising suspicion. During the conference, Adrian stood confidently at the podium in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, calmly answering questions from reporters. Watching him speak, I understood why the business world admired him. He wasn't driven by arrogance. He carried quiet confidence. Even when cameras followed him everywhere, his smile never looked forced. Yet I had begun noticing something no one else seemed to see. Whenever the lights dimmed and the applause faded, his smile disappeared. Late that evening, after the final presentation ended, we returned to our hotel suite to examine encrypted financial records recovered from an abandoned server. Documents covered the dining table. Holographic projections floated between us. Coffee had long gone cold. Hours passed without either of us realizing how late it had become. Adrian rubbed his eyes and sighed. I think we've read the same spreadsheet 5 times. I laughed. You've definitely read it 5 times. I only pretended to. He looked at me surprised. Then, he laughed. Not the polite laugh he used for shareholders. A real one. Warm, bright, completely unguarded. For a moment, the investigation no longer mattered. Near midnight, we left the hotel to clear our minds. Kyoto was peaceful after dark. Lanterns reflected softly across narrow streets. Traditional wooden houses stood quietly beneath the glow of the moon. The city felt untouched by the endless race for success. We walked without destination. without bodyguards, without assistance, just two men enjoying a rare moment of freedom. Adrian suddenly asked, "Ethan, why did you become a CEO?" The question caught me off guard. After a long silence, I answered honestly. My brother believed this company could change lives. I looked down. When he died, I promised I'd protect everything he built. Adrian nodded quietly. I understand. His voice barely rose above a whisper. My parents believed business should help people. He smiled sadly. They never came home from their final board meeting. Neither of us spoke after that. We didn't need to. For the first time, someone truly understood my grief. A gentle rain began to fall. Neither of us hurried for shelter. The cool drops blurred the lights around us. Adrian stopped beneath a blooming cherry tree. Petals drifted through the rain like tiny pink stars. He looked toward the sky. I spent years believing revenge would heal me. His voice trembled. But lately, he turned toward me. I've started hoping for something else. I stepped closer. So have I. The space between us disappeared. I slowly reached up and brushed a rain-soaked strand of hair away from his forehead. His breathing became uneven. So this is what trust feels like, he whispered. I searched his eyes one last time. He wasn't asking. He was choosing. I leaned forward. Our lips met in a slow, gentle kiss beneath the falling cherry blossoms. It wasn't driven by impulse. It was quiet, patient, a promise neither of us spoke aloud. When we finally pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine. I've been trying not to fall for you. I smiled softly. I stopped trying days ago. He laughed through watery eyes before leaning in once more for another brief, tender kiss that carried every unspoken feeling between us. For a little while, the world felt wonderfully small. The peaceful moment ended with the vibration of my phone. An anonymous message appeared. Stop digging. Attached was a recent photograph. It showed Adrian and me standing beneath the cherry blossoms only minutes earlier. Someone had been watching us, watching every step, every conversation, every moment. Adrian looked at the screen. His expression turned cold. They know. I closed the message. No. I looked directly into his eyes. They want us to think they know. For the first time since this investigation began, our enemy had made a mistake. Because now, we knew they were close, and we were finally ready to hunt them. The anonymous message changed everything. Until that night in Kyoto, Adrian and I had believed we were quietly uncovering the truth. Now we knew the truth had been watching us all along. Every meeting, every flight, every conversation, someone had anticipated every move we made. Yet one question haunted me more than the others. How had they found us? The following morning, the Global Innovation Summit continued as if nothing had happened. Executives smiled for cameras. Investors discussed billion-dollar partnerships. Reporters chased headlines. Meanwhile, Adrian and I exchanged only brief glances across the conference hall, careful not to reveal our growing closeness. To everyone else, we were still business rivals. Only we knew our rivalry had become an act. During a panel discussion, my phone vibrated. A secure message from our cybersecurity team flashed across the screen. Unauthorized access detected. Confidential Helix files copied overnight. Before I could respond, Adrian received a similar alert from his own company. The breach had struck both corporations at exactly the same time. This wasn't theft. It was a message. Back in my hotel suite, we compared the stolen files. None contained financial records. Instead, every document related to one event from 20 years ago. The same board meeting where my brother had died. The same corporate retreat where Adrian's parents had disappeared. Someone wanted us to remember the past. Hidden inside one corrupted file was a single line of encrypted text. The truth sleeps beneath Blackwater Island. Neither of us had ever heard the name before, but deep inside, felt familiar. Within hours we boarded a private jet bound for a remote island off the northern coast. Officially, we were attending a confidential investment meeting. Unofficially, We were chasing ghosts. The island greeted us with abandoned docks, dense forests, and the rusting remains of what had once been a private research facility. Nature had begun reclaiming the buildings. Broken windows reflected the gray sky. Old company logos were barely visible beneath peeling paint. As I stepped inside the deserted headquarters, a strange feeling settled over me. I had been here before, not as an adult, as a child. Fragments of forgotten memories returned like scattered puzzle pieces. My brother holding my hand. Men in expensive suits arguing behind closed doors. A loud alarm. Then, darkness. Adrian found the underground archive hidden beneath the main laboratory. Rows of dust-covered servers lined the walls. Most had been destroyed years ago. Only one remained active. When we restored the backup drive, a video recording appeared. The date froze my heart. It was recorded the day our families died. The screen showed 12 executives seated around a long conference table. Among them, my brother, Adrian's parents. They weren't enemies. They were partners. They had discovered that several board members were secretly funding illegal human experiments disguised as advanced medical research. Before they could expose the conspiracy, the facility was sabotaged. The explosion had never been an accident. It had been murder. Couldn't breathe. Everything I believed about my past shattered in a single moment. Adrian quietly reached for my hand. This time, I held on tightly. As we copied the evidence, footsteps echoed through the hallway above us. Someone else had entered the facility. The lights suddenly went out. Emergency alarms blared through the underground corridors. The backup generator failed. Darkness swallowed everything. "Run!" Adrian shouted. Masked intruders flooded the building. We escaped through narrow maintenance tunnels, barely staying ahead of them. Outside, rain poured across the island. We raced toward the abandoned dock where our boat waited. Just as we reached it, a gunshot echoed across the water. The bullet struck the engine, leaving us stranded. The attackers closed in. There was nowhere left to run. Then a helicopter appeared overhead. Powerful searchlights swept across the shoreline. The attackers scattered into the forest. Our security team had finally traced our emergency beacon. As we climbed aboard the helicopter, I looked back at the island disappearing beneath the clouds. Whoever controlled this conspiracy had resources beyond anything I had imagined. This wasn't a battle between corporations. It was a war against people who had spent decades hiding the truth. That night, after returning to the city, Adrian stood alone on the balcony outside my penthouse. Rain still fell beyond the skyline. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. Finally, I broke the silence. "I almost lost you today." He turned toward me. "But you didn't." His calm voice couldn't hide the exhaustion in his eyes. I stepped closer until only inches separated us. Without saying another word, I gently cupped his face. He leaned into my touch. Our lips met in a slow, heartfelt kiss. Not out of passion alone, but out of relief that we were both still alive. When we parted, he rested his forehead against mine and whispered, "Whatever comes next, we face it together." I nodded. Together. For the first time since this journey began, I wasn't afraid of the people hunting us. I was afraid of losing the man who had become my reason to keep fighting. Outside, lightning flashed across the city. Far away, hidden behind layers of powerful corporations, the mastermind watched the news of our escape. He smiled and quietly gave his next order. "Bring Adrian to me alive." The order to capture Adrian reached us before sunrise. Not through a warning, through silence. His phone stopped receiving calls. His company's encrypted network went offline. 3 members of his executive team disappeared within hours. Someone was removing every person who knew the truth. They were preparing for the final move. For the next several days, Adrian moved into my penthouse under the protection of my private security team. Officially, the media believed we were negotiating a hostile merger. The rumors worked in our favor. No one suspected we were preparing to expose one of the most powerful criminal networks in corporate history. Every evening, we reviewed the evidence recovered from Blackwater Island. Thousands of files, secret bank transfers, forged government approvals, hidden ownership records. The conspiracy reached far beyond our two companies. It stretched across multiple countries and industries. The deeper we searched, the clearer one name became: Victor Ashford, chairman of the Orion Consortium, a man celebrated around the world as a visionary philanthropist. To the public, he built hospitals and funded scientific research. Behind closed doors, he built an empire through fear, corruption, and murder. My brother had tried to expose him. Adrian's parents had done the same. None of them survived. One quiet evening, after hours of reviewing evidence, Adrian joined me on the rooftop terrace. The city lights shimmered beneath a cloudless sky. For the first time in weeks, neither of us spoke about investigations or conspiracies. Instead, we watched the stars. "I used to think I'd spend my whole life alone," I admitted. He looked at me with gentle eyes. So did I. The wind carried a comfortable silence between us. He reached for my hand, his fingers intertwining with mine as naturally as if they'd always belonged there. "I don't know what tomorrow brings," he said softly, "but I know I don't want to face it without you." I smiled, brushing my thumb across his hand. "You won't." He stepped closer, and I met him halfway. Our kiss was slow and reassuring, lingering just long enough to remind us that, even surrounded by danger, we still had something worth protecting. When we finally pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine. "Promise me one thing. Anything. If this ends badly." I gently shook my head. "It won't." The following afternoon, our legal team prepared to submit every piece of evidence to international authorities. Encrypted copies were uploaded to secure servers across multiple countries. There would be no way to erase the truth this time, or so we believed. As we left the office, our convoy entered an underground parking garage. The lights suddenly went out. Emergency barriers slammed shut at both exits. A deafening alarm echoed through the concrete structure. Dozens of masked operatives emerged from the shadows. Our security team reacted immediately. The garage became chaos. Vehicles crashed. Smoke filled the air. I grabbed Adrian's arm. "Stay with me." We fought our way toward an emergency exit, but an explosion separated us. The blast threw me across the floor. My ears rang. My vision blurred. When the smoke cleared, Adrian was gone. For hours, we searched every nearby street, warehouse, and surveillance camera. Nothing. No ransom demand. No message. Only one black envelope left on my desk that evening. Inside was a single photograph. Adrian sat tied to a chair inside an unfamiliar room. He wasn't injured, but he looked directly into the camera with calm determination. Written beneath the photograph were 7 words. "Come alone if you want him back." There was no signature. None was needed. Victor Ashford had finally shown his hand. Against every recommendation from my security team, I followed the coordinates hidden within the photograph. The location led me to an unfinished skyscraper overlooking the harbor. The upper floors were empty. Steel beams surrounded exposed concrete walls. Rain lashed through the open structure. Victor Ashford stood waiting near the edge of the building. Elegant, calm, untouchable. Adrian stood several meters away, restrained but standing tall. Victor smiled as I approached. "You've become exactly like your brother." I stared at him. "He died because he believed the truth mattered." Victor's smile never faded. "He died because he underestimated how expensive truth can be." Victor offered me a choice. Walk away. Destroy every copy of the evidence. Protect Adrian. Or expose the conspiracy and risk Adrian's life. For a brief moment, the weight of that decision threatened to crush me. Then Adrian met my eyes. He gave the smallest shake of his head. "Don't surrender." I understood. Without warning, emergency lights flooded the building. Sirens echoed across the harbor. My security team, together with international investigators, stormed the site from multiple entrances. Victor had expected me to come alone. He hadn't expected me to trust others. The confrontation erupted into chaos. In the confusion, I reached Adrian and freed him from his restraints. The moment he was free, he pulled me into a fierce embrace. Neither of us cared about the shouting around us. We were simply grateful to be together again. He whispered, his voice unsteady, "I knew you'd find me." I smiled through the rush of relief. "I'll always find you." We shared a brief, heartfelt kiss before turning back toward the unfolding operation. Victor Ashford tried to escape by helicopter. But this time, there was nowhere left to run. As dawn broke over the city, the first arrests began. The empire built on lies was finally starting to crumble. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling that one final battle still awaited us. Because the truth was finally free, and the whole world was about to hear it. The morning after Victor Ashford's arrest, the world woke up to headlines no one had expected. Global corporate conspiracy exposed. Orion Consortium chairman arrested. Decades of corruption finally uncovered. Every news channel replayed the evidence we had risked everything to protect. Governments launched investigations. Executives resigned overnight. Hidden accounts were frozen. The empire built on fear began collapsing piece by piece. For the first time in years, justice was no longer just a dream. Adrian and I spent the next several days giving statements to investigators. Hours turned into days inside conference rooms filled with lawyers, prosecutors, and financial experts. Every document from Blackwater Island became another piece of the truth. Each testimony honored the people who had never lived to tell their own stories. My brother, Adrian's parents, and countless others whose names had been buried beneath years of silence. When the final hearing ended, the lead investigator closed the case file and looked at us. "Because you refused to give up, thousands of lives will never be controlled by this organization again." For the first time, I felt the weight I'd carried for 20 years begin to lift. Weeks later, shareholders from both Helix Corporation and Vale Industries gathered for an extraordinary meeting. Reporters packed every seat. Millions watched the live broadcast. Everyone expected another corporate battle. Instead, Adrian and I walked onto the stage together. No rivalry, no hidden agendas, just honesty. I stepped to the microphone. For years, we believed success meant defeating one another. I glanced toward Adrian. We were wrong. He smiled before continuing. The greatest victory wasn't winning a company. It was choosing integrity over fear and choosing to trust. The room fell silent. Then, one by one, people stood and applauded. Not for our profits, not for our titles, for our courage. After the conference, we quietly slipped away from the cameras. No security, no assistance, just the two of us. Our driver took us back to the rooftop where our partnership had first begun. The city stretched endlessly beneath the evening sky. The wind carried the familiar scent of rain. "It feels different now," Adrian said. "It does. No more pretending. No more hiding." He laughed softly. "I almost miss arguing with you." I smiled. "You were terrible at winning." "Oh." He stepped closer with a playful grin. "I think I won the most important thing." Before I could answer, he gently cupped my face. Our lips met in a slow, tender kiss, unhurried and filled with quiet happiness. There was no fear of cameras, no fear of judgment, only gratitude for everything we had survived together. When we parted, he rested his forehead against mine. "I love you, Ethan." The words settled into my heart more deeply than any business award ever could. "I love you too, Adrian." This time, there was nothing left to stop us from saying it. 1 year later, Helix Corporation and Vale Industries officially merged, not to dominate the market, but to create something better. We established strict ethical standards. Every research project became transparent. Every employee had a voice. The company no longer measured success only by profit. It measured success by the lives it improved. Together, Adrian and I also created the Vale Foundation, providing scholarships to young innovators and funding research that served communities instead of greed. Whenever someone asked how two rival CEOs had managed to build one company together, we always gave the same answer. Trust. It was simple, but it had changed everything. On the anniversary of the day we met on the rooftop, Adrian surprised me with one last trip. Not to a board meeting. Not to another country. To a quiet hill overlooking the ocean where the sun slowly disappeared beneath the horizon. The waves rolled gently against the shore. There were no reporters. No flashing cameras. Only the sound of the sea. Adrian reached into his pocket and held out a small velvet box. My heart skipped. He smiled nervously, the confident CEO suddenly gone. Ethan Cross. He took my hand. Every company I ever built could disappear tomorrow, and I'd still feel like the luckiest man alive because I found you. He opened the box. Inside were two simple platinum rings. They're not symbols of ownership. They're a promise. A promise that no matter where life takes us, we'll always walk forward together. My eyes filled with tears. I laughed softly before answering. I've been saying yes since the day you smiled at me on that rooftop. I slipped the ring onto his finger. He placed the other on mine. As the last rays of sunlight painted the ocean gold, we embraced and shared a gentle kiss, knowing that this was not the end of our story. It was the beginning of the life we had chosen together. I used to believe the greatest achievement was becoming the youngest CEO in history. I was wrong. The greatest achievement of my life was finding the one person who taught me that love is stronger than ambition, truth is stronger than power, and a shared future is worth more than any empire.